I didn't expect her back that early. Emma was supposed to fly in the next morning. I had checked the itinerary twice, even watched her final boarding story on Instagram the night before, like a good husband. That was my mistake. I kept believing everything she showed me, not what was actually happening. The front door creaked open around 9:30 p.m. I was in the kitchen, lights off, sitting at the small table where we used to share coffee in the mornings. She didn't even see me as she stepped inside, humming something cheerful under her breath, dragging her suitcase like she hadn't just been across the country for 5 days. Like she hadn't left behind questions. She paused to kick off her heels, then walked toward the hallway, probably heading for the bedroom. Her rhythm slowed as soon as she reached the little console table near the stairs. That's where I left it. The photo. She didn't say anything at first. I heard the rattle of her keys stop. Heard the shift in her breath when she saw what was waiting for her. A single 4x6 glossy photograph. No note, no caption. It didn't need one. In it, she stood in front of a hotel mirror, one shoulder bare, the top of her dress pulled halfway down. Her eyes were cast toward the camera, caught in mid-laugh. Behind her, a man's hand rested on her waist, his fingertips just visible, possessive and too familiar. Her face wasn't shocked. It wasn't surprised. It looked like someone caught in a private moment that wasn't meant to be shared. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight and too calm. "Jake," she called out softly, like she wasn't sure if I was home. I stayed silent. Then I heard the photo drop back onto the table. Okay, I can explain." Her voice grew louder, now echoing slightly as she stepped into view. Her hands were up, palms out, like I was about to throw a punch. "Seriously, Jake, this isn't what it looks like." She was already launching into it even though I hadn't said a word. I didn't look at her, not yet. I just kept staring at the blank wall behind the sink, tracing the cracks in the tile grout with my eyes, trying to keep my breathing steady. "It's not what it looks like," she repeated. "That photo, it's old. I mean, it could have been photoshopped for all we know. I don't even remember anyone taking that." The lie was so smooth it made my stomach turn. I finally looked up. Her face was pale but not tearful. Her brow furrowed like someone confused more than guilty. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice strained now. "Who gave that to you?" I tilted my head. That was her priority. Who gave it to me? Not what it showed. Not the fact that her hand was literally on the mystery guy's wrist, that she looked comfortable, not caught. She started pacing. "Look, I was at that hotel for the marketing summit. You know that. I showed you the registration stuff, remember?" I said nothing. I just watched. "Jake, you've got to believe me," she said, switching tones like a light switch. "You know how stuff like this can be taken out of context. I wouldn't cheat on you." "God, do you really think I'm that kind of person?" I didn't answer because I didn't know anymore. "You're being quiet and it's freaking me out," she added. "Why are you just sitting there? You really think I'd go all the way to LA and hook up with some random guy in a hotel bathroom? You know me better than that." But I didn't. Not anymore. She walked closer, pulling out a chair like we were going to have a casual chat. Can we sit down? Please? You're clearly upset and I don't want to make this worse." That's when I saw it. Not guilt. Not panic. Control. She was trying to manage me. Manage the narrative. Like she was trained for this. "Okay," she said, taking a deep breath. "I swear on everything I love, I have no idea who would do this to us. Maybe someone is trying to ruin our marriage. Us. Our marriage." She hadn't even said sorry. "I want to know the truth," I finally said, my voice flat and low. Not rehearsed lines. Not what you think I want to hear. Just tell me what that photo is." She blinked. "It's nothing. That's the truth. It's someone messing with us." I laughed, short and bitter. "That your story?" "I don't have a story, Jake. I have the truth." It wasn't just what she said, it was the way she said it. She wasn't unraveling. She was performing. She kept her tone measured, calculated, her hands never shaking. Her eyes darted too quickly, scanning my face for reactions. She wasn't crushed by the weight of getting caught, she was trying to get ahead of it. "That photo," I said slowly, "was timestamped. 3 nights ago. Same date as your Instagram story from the hotel bar. Same outfit." For the first time, her face slipped. Just slightly. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then she shifted again. "Okay," she said, her voice lower now. "Maybe I met someone for drinks. A client. It was harmless. But nothing happened. I swear to you." "A client? This is what you're going with?" I asked. "A client with their hand around your waist? You undressing in front of a mirror?" She crossed her arms. "I didn't say I was undressing. That's your interpretation." I stared at her. "You're seriously going to argue semantics right now?" "I'm trying to explain, Jake." "No," I said. "You're trying to twist it. Big difference." Her jaw tightened. I can't talk to you when you're like this. There it was, the pivot. Blame me for being too upset, too logical, too observant. Flip the script. She stood up abruptly. I need a minute. I didn't stop her as she walked to the other side of the house. I just sat there, staring at the spot where she'd been standing. At the empty chair, the clatter of her suitcase half unzipped in the hallway and the soft hum of her phone buzzing with unread texts. I'd loved her for 5 years. Shared a house. Shared a bed. Shared a life. And now I wasn't even sure I recognized the person I'd built all of that with. And the worst part? She didn't look scared of losing me. She looked scared of losing control. The next morning, I got in the car and drove. No destination, no playlist, just the engine and the road and the pressure building behind my eyes. I told myself I just needed some space to think, to cool off, but the truth was uglier than that. I didn't trust myself around her. She was still asleep when I left, or pretending to be. Her side of the bed didn't look slept in. She might have spent the night on the couch for show, or maybe she just wanted to avoid facing me again. Either way, I didn't care. I had bigger things to figure out than whether or not Emma could fake a good night's sleep. I drove across town to nowhere in particular. Past coffee shops where we used to go on Sundays, grocery stores where we'd bicker over pasta brands, gas stations where she used to hop out to grab chocolate bars and tell me she earned them. Every intersection brought back some memory of us, some memory I wasn't sure I could trust anymore. Because here's the thing no one tells you, betrayal doesn't just make you angry. It rewrites your memories. Everything starts to feel like a lie. The longer I drove, the more the past began reshaping itself in my mind. All the weird little moments I'd brushed off or rationalized came rushing back like debris after a flood. I remembered the phone thing first. Months ago, she started keeping her phone face down. It was subtle at first, just during dinner or when we were watching something on Netflix. But then it became constant. She'd take calls outside, say she had to step away for work, or suddenly decide to do laundry while her phone buzzed nonstop in the next room. I didn't think much of it. People need space, I told myself. She's working more. She's under pressure. But I should have known. There was that weekend in February when she claimed she had to meet with a client in the city. She got back late? Way too late. She smelled like some citrusy perfume I didn't recognize, and her coat was wrinkled like she'd been wearing it for hours without sitting down. I asked her about it, and she just gave me that breezy laugh and said, "Traffic, babe." You wouldn't believe it. She was always good at dismissing things with a smile. And then there were the new clothes. Emma had always dressed well, but lately she'd stepped it up: expensive shoes, sleek dresses, designer purses that definitely weren't in the budget. I'd ask about them and she'd say they were on sale or borrowed from a friend. There was a silk blouse she wore to brunch that still had a tag inside the collar. I noticed it as we were folding laundry one night. I didn't say anything then. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Even the family dog, Milo, started acting differently. He used to greet her at the door like she was Santa Claus. But somewhere along the way, that changed. He started hiding under the couch when she came in, tail down, ears back. I'd never seen him like that before. Maybe he's getting old, Emma said. But Milo wasn't old. Milo was scared. And now I think maybe he knew something I didn't. Dogs have a way of picking up on things people ignore. There were other signs, too, more personal ones. Her affection had cooled off. It wasn't obvious at first. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still curled up beside me during movies. But her eyes didn't meet mine the same way. Her touch felt absent, like she was going through the motions. One night, I reached for her hand and she flinched, not dramatically, but enough that it felt like a wall between us. She stopped saying, "I love you" first. Always waited for me to say it. Sometimes she wouldn't say it back at all. Said she was tired, distracted, busy. Then came the burns. Just a few months ago, I noticed a small red patch on her arm. Looked like she brushed it against something hot. When I asked about it, she covered it quickly and said it was from a curling iron. But the mark was too wide, too straight. Didn't look like any curling iron I'd seen. I offered to get some ointment. She brushed me off. Said it was healing. I didn't press it. Now I wish I had. That was the same week she started working late. She'd come home after 10, drop her bag by the door, and collapse into bed without saying more than a few words. I asked her what she was working on, and she rattled off some jargon: client pivot, data strategy, back-end compliance metrics, stuff I didn't understand but sounded official enough to quiet my doubts. But that's the trick, isn't it? People don't lie with absurdity. They lie with plausibility. And I believed her because I wanted to. Because it was easier than imagining the truth. I pulled into the parking lot of a park we used to visit sometimes, a quiet place with walking trails and a little wooden bridge that creaked when you stepped on it. We hadn't been there in over a year. I led the engine and sat in the silence, watching joggers pass by and kids on scooters zip down the path. Life didn't care that mine was falling apart. It just kept moving. My hands trembled as I opened the glove box. I'd stashed the photo there before leaving the house, too angry to look at it again, too afraid to destroy it. I pulled it out now, holding it in the sunlight. There she was. Emma. Laughing. Leaning against a hotel sink like she didn't have a husband waiting at home. Like none of it mattered. I flipped the photo over. On the back, someone had written a date and time in sharp black ink. Just 3 nights ago. The same night she texted me at 9:47 p.m. to say she was finishing up slides with the team. She even sent a smiling selfie from a hotel lobby. I stared at the handwriting, wondering who left it. Who wanted me to know? Whoever it was, they didn't send this by accident. It was a warning. Or maybe a favor. But either way, it had snapped my world in two. I leaned back in my seat and exhaled slowly. The air felt heavier now. My lungs hurt, my chest ached, and a dull pounding had taken up residence behind my eyes. I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. I was dealing with a pattern. A system. A carefully managed deception that had wormed its way into every part of my life. And the worst part? I could feel myself starting to numb out. Like my body knew I couldn't take much more. I stayed in that car for hours. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I already did, and that truth scared the hell out of me. 3 days passed. 3 full days of pretending to function. I went to work, answered emails, joined video meetings, nodded at the right times. I even managed to make small talk with a coworker about the weather, which felt surreal. Meanwhile, at home, Emma kept playing the part, laughing at shows, pouring coffee like we weren't teetering on the edge of something unfixable. She didn't mention the photo again. Neither did I. We existed in this weird fog of avoidance where she didn't explain and I didn't ask. But beneath that silence was something ugly. I wasn't angry anymore, I was calculating. I was studying her. Watching how she moved, how she flinched when her phone buzzed, how she guarded her screen like it was some fragile glass secret. Then, on the 4th morning, the doorbell rang. It was early, too early for deliveries. I opened the door to find no one there. Just a small black envelope sitting on the welcome mat. No return address. No markings. Just my name written in the center in faint silver ink. I brought it inside and stared at it for a long minute, heart pounding harder than it had in days. Then I tore it open. Inside was a single USB drive. I didn't pause. Didn't wonder. I grabbed my laptop from the kitchen counter and plugged it in with hands that didn't feel like mine. There were dozens of files. Photos. Videos. Audio clips. All organized by date and time. Some folders had names. One was titled The Room. Another just said J+E. I opened the first folder and clicked on a video. Emma, walking out of an upscale hotel arm in arm with the man from the photo. They looked casual, comfortable. She was smiling. He leaned in and kissed her cheek before they got into a black car together. Her face didn't show panic. There was no hesitation. The timestamp? The night she told me she was stuck on a client call and eating Uber Eats in her room. I clicked on another file, a voice memo. Her voice, softer than I'd ever heard it. Almost an asterisk mate. She was laughing about something. Then clearly, I needed this, you know? You're the only one who makes me feel real anymore. It wasn't for me. That much was obvious. There was a different file with security footage from a hotel hallway. It showed Emma stepping out of the elevator with the same man. She had changed clothes, was wearing a silk robe. He had his hand on the small of her back. She was barefoot. I stopped the video halfway through and sat back in my chair, bile rising in my throat. This wasn't speculation anymore. This was fact. And the kicker? The sweet number they walked toward? 732. I knew that room. We had celebrated our 2nd anniversary there. I remember it because the window overlooked the harbor, and Emma had made a big deal about getting a room with the view. I remember her curling up with me in that bed, saying it was the best night of her life. Now she'd brought someone else there. To our place. Our memory. I slammed the laptop shut. My vision was blurry. I don't remember if I started crying or if I was just that angry, but something inside me snapped. I wanted to scream or punch something, but I didn't. I just sat there, shaking. After a few minutes, I opened the laptop again. I forced myself to keep watching, keep listening, because I needed to know everything. If I was going to survive this, I couldn't afford to hold on to illusions. One folder had *TS, messages between Emma and the man. His name, apparently, was Caleb. They used a messaging app one didn't recognize. It looked encrypted, secure. Not the kind of thing you use unless you're deliberately hiding something. Their conversation was flirtatious, sure, but also logistical, precise. She asked things like, "Will you be in 732 again next month? Should I tell him I'm traveling for work or family? What if he finds out?" At one point, she wrote, "He's starting to notice. I think I need to back off a bit. Play it safe for a while." To which he replied, "Do what you need to do, but don't disappear." I sat there stunned. She was managing me, strategizing around me like I was an obstacle. Not a husband. I wasn't her partner. I was her liability. There was even a spreadsheet in one folder, some kind of schedule tracking her excuses. Flight numbers, hotel check-ins, calendar events. It was all there. An entire operation. I don't even know how long it had been going on. The earliest file dated back 5 months. But based on the way she spoke to him, it had probably been longer. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and dry-heaved over the sink. Nothing came out. Just that sour, hollow feeling that takes over when your body's trying to purge betrayal but there's nothing left to lose. After I cleaned up, I sat back down and scrolled through more files. One hit harder than the rest. It was a photo, taken from the hotel bar where she told me she'd been networking with colleagues. She was sitting in a booth, wine glass in hand, leaning into Caleb's shoulder. Her body language was open, relaxed. She looked happy, maybe even in love. And in the background, a photo on the wall, black and white, of a couple dancing in the rain. I knew that photo. She had taken a picture of it the first time we stayed there. Said it reminded her of us. Said it was our thing. Now it was just another prop in a scene I hadn't been invited to. I closed the file, set the laptop aside, and just sat there. For a long time. When Emma came home that evening, I was still at the table. Same chair. Same spot. My face must have given something away, because she froze in the doorway. "Hey," she said slowly. "You okay?" I turned to her. Just looked. I didn't answer. She took a step forward. "Jake." I stood up. "I know everything," I said. Her face went pale. For a second, she didn't speak. Then, remarkably, she tried to smile. "Everything." I nodded. "Every message. Every video. Every file. Room 732. Caleb." And there it was, the exact second her mask cracked. She blinked, looked away, then back at me. Her mouth opened like she was about to launch into another lie. But I didn't give her the chance. "I'm not asking you to explain," I said. "I'm telling you it's done." She took another step. "Jake, wait." "No," I said. "Don't beg. Don't deflect. You had your chance." "But there's no misunderstanding here, Emma. There's no wiggle room. You chose this." I picked up the USB drive and held it out to her. "I want you to take this. Watch it. Listen to it. See yourself through my eyes now. Then ask yourself if you still have the right to say you love me." Her eyes filled with tears. But I didn't feel moved. I felt clear. More clear than I had in weeks. She didn't take the drive. She just stood there, crying, silent. Eventually, I dropped it on the counter and walked out of the room. And for the first time since all this started, I didn't look back. Emma was still in the house the next day. I hadn't kicked her out. Not yet. I didn't have a plan for what happened next. And part of me wanted to see how far she'd go trying to pretend everything wasn't already in pieces. She moved quietly that morning, like a guest in her own home. No usual humming while making coffee. No idle scrolling through her phone at the kitchen counter. She avoided eye contact, only speaking in fragments, "Want toast?" and "I'm going for a walk." I didn't respond to any of it. I spent most of the day in my office, but not working. Instead, I dug. There's something that happens when the illusion of your life breaks. You start looking for cracks everywhere. Patterns you missed. Clues you dismissed as unimportant. You stop trusting your own memory and suddenly everything, every glance, every smile, every absence feels like a loaded G***. That's when I remembered something. Brian. My cousin, the quiet IT guy who always fixed my tech problems faster than I could explain them. A couple of years ago, he'd helped me set up a cloud backup system for Emma's phone after she dropped hers in the pool. I hadn't thought about it in ages, one of those things you forget until you suddenly need it. I called him. You still have access to that cloud folder? I asked. A pause. Then, yeah, I think so. You want me to check? No, I said. Just send me the login. He didn't ask questions. I appreciated that. When the credentials hit my inbox, I logged in and waited as the mirrored files downloaded. The folders were older, nothing from the past few weeks, but I didn't need new. I needed authentic. Something untouched. Something that hadn't been scrubbed clean. There were messages. Photos. Voice memos. Notes. At first, it looked innocent. Texts to her sister. Calendar reminders. A shopping list from 6 months ago that included kale, toner, and Jake's Dumb vitamins. I almost laughed at that one. Almost. But then I hit a folder labeled Sync Archive January. Inside were call logs and app data from a number I didn't recognize. Not Caleb. A different number. I cross-referenced it with the screensh *TS from the USB. Not in there. My stomach twisted. Emma had deleted this thread. But the backup hadn't. I opened it. The messages were short. Paranoid. Obsessive. January 9th, 8:12 p.m. He left at 6:34. Why hasn't he texted? Jan 10th, 10:15 a.m. Pinned his location. Stuck at the same address again. Going to drive by. January 13th, 9:41 p.m. Got his call logs from last week. 2 unknowns. 1 repeats. It wasn't her being tracked. She was tracking him. Caleb. There were photos of GPS pings. Notes typed in shorthand. Rainy day. No umbrella. Picked her up in gray Lexus. Stayed in parking lot for 11 minutes. Didn't get out? Said he was in Philly. He wasn't. Emma had been spying. But not on me. On him. I kept reading, flipping through entries like pages of a slow-burning horror story. Somewhere along the way, probably after months of sneaking around, she started to suspect that the man she was risking everything for wasn't being honest with her either. It got worse. In one note, she wrote, "Don't trust his sister. Not a sister. And another." He asked about Jake again. Keeps bringing up our wedding anniversary. That line stopped me cold. Why would Caleb bring me up? And why would he care about our anniversary? Unless this wasn't just some stupid affair. Unless it wasn't random. Unless I was part of the plan. I sat back in my chair, hands trembling. Another file caught my eye, an audio memo, untitled. I hit play. Emma's voice came through, whispering into the phone like she didn't want anyone to hear, not even herself. I don't know who he really is. He changes details. One day he says he's from DC, the next from Jersey. He says I'm special, that he chose me because I'm smart. Because I'm good at following instructions. I don't know what that means. He says it like it's a compliment, but it feels like a test. Like I'm being measured. She paused. Then quieter. I think he's watching me. She took a shaky breath. I found a second phone under the seat in his car. Burn phone. All it had was a list of names and a contact called Jenna Handler. I took a photo. I think Jenna's the one behind all of it. I think they're watching Jake too. My pulse thundered. Handler? Jenna? This wasn't cheating anymore. This was something else. I went back to the folder and found a blurry image of the phone screen she mentioned. The contact for Jenna Handler was listed at the top. There were only 3 numbers saved in that phone. Hers was one of them. The rest of the audio was her crying softly. Saying my name. Saying she was sorry. Not in the way she said it to my face. This was different. This sounded real. I sat still for a long time trying to process it all. She was cheating. Yes. That hadn't changed. But she was also being used. Monitored. Controlled. And in her paranoia, she tried to regain power the only way she could, by turning the mirror around on him. I scrolled to another note. The last one in the folder. It was dated the same day the USB drive showed up. If something happens, he'll think I was just a liar. That's fine. But I hope he keeps looking. Room 732 wasn't just about S***X. It was the test. The way they decide if you're compliant. Jenna told me I was lucky. That I get to choose. I didn't. My blood ran cold. This wasn't an affair anymore. It was a recruitment. A manipulation. An operation. I looked back at all the moments I had dismissed as signs of guilt, her burns, her absences, her distracted eyes. What if they weren't just about covering up an affair? What if they were signs of something deeper? What if she wasn't just running from me? What if she was running from them? Emma came home late that night. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched. Watched how she triple-locked the door. How she checked the curtains. How she looked over her shoulder even when walking through our own kitchen. She was afraid. I thought I had known everything there was to know about the betrayal. But this was something else. The game wasn't about lust. It was about leverage. And I was no longer sure who was in control anymore. Emma disappeared on a Thursday. I woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. Except she wasn't there. The blankets were still smooth on her side, untouched. I checked the bathroom. Empty. Kitchen. Nothing. Her coat was gone. So were her keys. But her overnight bag, the one she never traveled without, was still by the closet. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No read receipt. By noon, I was pacing the living room like a caged animal. I kept telling myself she'd show up, that maybe she just needed space or air or whatever excuse people give when they're scared to come home. But it didn't feel like that. This wasn't dramatic silence. It was complete shutdown. I called her office. Her manager, Anna, picked up. Hi, Jake, she said, like she didn't want to be on the call. Emma's not in today. Did she call out? No, she said quietly. She hasn't checked in since yesterday. We've been trying to reach her too. I hung up with a hollow thank you and stared at the floor. Something was wrong. I felt it everywhere, in the quiet, in the air, in my own damn skin. That night, I checked the backup drive again. No new messages, no new data. I tried logging into her email. Nothing. All access points were locked down. It was like she had vanished on purpose, erased herself from the system. I couldn't even tell if she left voluntarily or if someone made her disappear. Then, around 10:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. I stood in the hallway for a long minute, staring at the door like it might explode. When I finally opened it, no one was there. Just the second envelope. Thicker than the first one. Plain. No name this time. Inside was a black stiletto heel. I recognized it immediately. Emma wore them on our 9th anniversary. We had gone out to that fancy Italian place she loved, and she had teased me all night about the way I kept staring at her legs. She'd even made a joke, careful, I might keep these just for manipulating you. It was that same heel. But it wasn't pristine anymore. The back strap was scuffed, the heel bent like it had been yanked off or dropped. It didn't look like something someone meant to return. Also inside the envelope was a notebook. Spiral-bound, worn, like she had carried it for months. I flipped through it quickly, hands trembling. Most of the pages were blank. A few had short, cryptic phrases. 509 train equals wrong person. No such thing as separate rooms. Black car, tinted windows equals Jenna? And then the final page. A single phrase written over and over in looping, shaky penmanship. Do not trust room 732. Circled. Then circled again. Then pressed so hard it nearly tore the paper. My hands went cold. Room 732. Again. That room had come up in every phase of the spiral. First in the photo. Then in the USB files. Then in the memo where she said it was the test. And now this. I sat down at the kitchen table, heel and notebook beside me, and tried to breathe. That room, it wasn't just a location. It was a pattern. A threshold. Some kind of turning point. It was where everything blurred for her. And maybe where it started for me. I pulled out my laptop and searched every detail I could about the hotel. Looked up past incidents, rumors, lawsuits. Nothing concrete. Just glossy photos of high-rise windows and 5-star reviews and phrases like luxury corner suite with skyline view. But then, buried deep in a travel forum, I found a post. Dated a year ago. The title, Room 732, Never Again. The body was short. Vague. But it chilled me. Stayed there for a corporate retreat. Woke up in a different city. No memory of how I got there. Checked my phone's photo library, half of it was wiped. Still have bruises on my arms. Never staying at the Langdale again. Room 732 is a trap. Another reply, posted 2 weeks later. Same. Different hotel, different city? But same room number. 732. Didn't think anything of it until I read this thread. Thought I was going crazy. You're not alone. I sat back, stunned. This wasn't just Emma. This wasn't just infidelity. Room 732 was something else. Some kind of staging ground. A place where things were changed. Controlled. Rewritten. I opened the notebook again and flipped through every page, trying to make sense of the scattered notes. Some were just names. Some were coordinates. One looked like a cipher, a scrambled string of letters I couldn't immediately decode. But the tone of the handwriting told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't written by someone hiding a secret. This was written by someone trapped inside one. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the front door like some old dog waiting for his person to come home. But she didn't. The house felt cavernous without her, and not in a peaceful way. More like a space hollowed out too fast, like she'd been ripped away instead of just walking out. The next day, I called Brian. Something's not right, I told him. I think Emma's in trouble. He didn't laugh or brush it off. Maybe he could hear it in my voice. Maybe he already knew something wasn't adding up. Send me everything you have, he said. I'll take a look. I forwarded the USB files. *TS. The backup logs. A photo of the notebook. I even sent him pictures of the heel and the envelope just in case. 3 hours later, he called me back. You're not going to like this, he said. I already don't like any of it. Fair, he admitted. But here's what I've got. Room 732 comes up in at least 6 separate incidents across 3 states. All of them involve people who worked in consulting, data analysis, or government-adjacent tech. That's too specific to be coincidence. Are you saying it's targeted? I'm saying it's consistent. And your wife? Her profile fits. I rubbed my temples. Why would they care about her? That's the thing. I don't think she was the end goal. I froze. What do you mean? I think you were. The words hit me like a car crash. Me? But I'm not anyone. I don't even know. Jake, he interrupted, your name comes up in one of the files. A reference. Timestamped before any of the other data. It says J equals key to compliance. Use emotional leverage. Room 732 optimal for test loop. I felt like I was going to throw up. She never told me any of this, I whispered. She might not have been allowed to, he said. I looked down at the heel again. The notebook. The silence that had settled over our house like a fog. And I realized something terrible. Emma hadn't disappeared because she was ashamed. She disappeared because she was scared. Because room 732 hadn't just been a hotel suite. It had been an audition. A turning point. A place where they tried to break her. Maybe they had. Maybe they hadn't. But whatever happened there, it hadn't ended. And now it was coming for me. 2 days after Emma vanished, I opened her suitcase, the one she never left behind. Tucked inside a false lining was a second phone. No lock. No password. Just open access and a folder titled For Jay. It was full of audio recordings. Her voice came through faint, scared. If you're hearing this, I didn't run. I was erased. She explained everything, how Jenna approached her during a data contract, how the consulting gig was a front, how Caleb wasn't a lover but a handler. Room 732 was meant for you, she whispered. They wanted me to set you up, Jake. I said no. That's when they stopped pretending. She'd been collecting evidence, hoping I'd find it all if she couldn't make it out. Her final words, don't trust what you see. Don't trust what you remember. Brian passed the files to a contact in federal intel. Quietly. No headlines, no police. Just a dead drop and silence. Weeks later, Emma returned thin, pale, but alive. She confessed they blackmailed her, used me as leverage, threatened to vanish us both if she didn't comply. She disappeared to protect me and finish what she started. I didn't forgive her overnight. But we started again, no lies, no filters. We moved forward, scarred but honest. The storm wasn't over. But for the first time, we were facing it together without masks.